Hi, thanks for joining us for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. I'm Chris Cooper. Today we are going to catch up on viewer questions. It's the Q&A show just ahead on the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South.
Production funding for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South is provided by the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to the Family Plot. I'm Chris Cooper. It's the middle of winter and gardeners are gearing up for spring. We have some questions we answered last year, but we did not have time to air them. Hopefully some of these will help you plan for this year. Let's start with a question about verticillium wilt. I lost my gold smoke tree to verticillium wilt. The local extension agent says that I cannot kill the fungus. The smoke tree sat between a bush crepe myrtle and a Tropicana rose. Are plants growing close to a plant infected with verticillium wilt in danger of catching it? And this is Gloria from Charleston, West Virginia. So Dr. Kelly, what do you think about that? Verticillium wilt, which is a soil-borne fungus.
You know,
right?
I mean, typically, you know, homeowners don't
That's
know all this
good.
technical stuff.
Right.
But verticillium and
Yes.
fusarium are very common, you know, pathogens in our soils. And some plants are a lot more susceptible to getting those than others, but it's not catching from one plant to the other.
Okay.
It's taken up through the root system and the vascular system. So to answer the question about it being in fact danger of catching it, no, it's not. It doesn't work that way.
Okay.
And the way to avoid, you know, there is no cure.
Right, yes,
You know,
no
there's
cure.
really no
Yeah,
cure
no
because
cure.
it's soil-borne
Right.
and it's there, it's everywhere, and it's really the thing to do is select things that are resistant to it.
Right.
And there are a lot of plants that are resistant.
Okay.
You know, so obviously the plant she's got right next to it, the crepe myrtle and Tropicana, would be fairly resistant. And there's a way to tell if it's verticillium, is you can pull back the bark a little bit, and then the tissue would be dark. You know, with the vascular system. Yeah.
Hey, it has a little dark band.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, Joel, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, well, there are lists. There are lists that a lot of extensions agents have got, and in fact, the fact that she went to an extension agent to find all this information is great, because go to your local extension agent, they can help you with a lot of your plant questions. But yeah, there are lists out there, and I think, you know, I can't remember, there's one that I'll send, and they can put up, and you can look at that list, and it's got a lot of things that are susceptible and a lot of plants that are more resistant to the verticillium wilt. So
Yeah, we'll get that publication
we'll get
up
that
on the website.
we'll get that
Yeah,
up,
we can
and
do that.
that'll help.
Yeah, it's a real good extensive list. My hydrangea never bloomed. I have tried everything. What can I do? And this is Rocco. So he's having problems with his hydrangeas not blooming. But we have some questions
Yeah.
as well, right?
Yeah, where is it planted?
Okay.
What
all right.
kind of light is it getting?
And
What kind of
right.
soil? I mean, what kind of soil is it? Is it wet there? Is it drier there?
And then what kind
What-
of hydrangeas
yeah,
are we talking about?
Which,
Yeah.
which kind?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you can have from shade to sun for hydrangeas. There's all different kinds.
Sure.
Check the moisture. Check the soil pH. Make sure it's in the range that hydrangeas like.
Right.
Which I was thinking, they like it a little bit acid, like
They do.
6 to 6.2 or something like that.
They do, you're correct.
And that's about all you need to do. I mean, it's either you don't want to over fertilize it too. So hopefully he's not over fertilizing it, because too much fertilizer will get you a lot of foliage and not as many blooms.
Specifically, too much nitrogen fertilizer
Yeah.
for sure will give you a lot of foliage.
And you should be soil testing to see if you even
Yes.
need any
Yes, that's for sure.
at all. So
Yeah, so
I would try those things.
I would try those, and of course, you know, what came to mind to me was this: did he prune them incorrectly?
Oh,
Right.
I didn't think about that too. Yeah,
So-
it depends on what kind of
But see, we don't-
hydrangea
right.
it is. It can either be bloomed right after it finishes blooming, or you can prune it in the spring. But if you prune it in the spring before it blooms, and it's not it blooms on second year growth, then you have cut off all of your blooms. So it really, you need to know what type of hydrangea you have to know when to prune it too.
I would agree with that. So that, how about cold damage? I mean,
Yeah,
that's
you
possible.
could, depending on where he's from,
Right,
yeah,
it's
it could be
possible.
cold damage.
Right.
Maybe he needs to reach out to his local extension service
I would
and
suggest
see
that,
if,
yeah.
you know, they can help him out with the variety that it is and, you know, when he needs to prune it and what else he can do.
I have 3 daylilies and they have started clumping. They are probably 4 years old. When should I dig and divide daylilies? And this is Cat Mom on YouTube. Yeah, Cat Mom.
All right.
So when should she divide those daylilies, you think?
Well, that's a good question. She says they're probably 4 years old. So typically daylilies could be divided every 3 to 5 years. So this is a good timing. I have heard daylily growers say that you can divide them anytime the shovel is sharp.
Okay, all right.
It is
Okay.
it is a tough plant.
Yes, it
So
is.
it's probably going to survive. The best time is probably summer, right after they bloom, because then you can divide them up, get them planted. There's still time for the roots to develop and get established before the winter. Second best time would be right about now, in early
Yeah,
spring, as the foliage is coming up. That would still be time to move them. But technically, they could be divided anytime. It's such a tough plant. You may, if you divide it, say when it's blooming or right before it blooms, you may lose some blooms on it. It may suffer a little bit. But daylilies are so tough that you should experience pretty good success anytime.
Yeah, daylilies are tough. I have some at home, of course. Stella d'Oro. Yeah,
Great.
divide them up, pull them apart, get as much of the roots as you possibly can. Plant
Right.
them at the right depth.
Right?
They'll be fine. They'll be fine. They are tough plants. Can you please recommend how to care for my winter pansies? This is my first time trying these. I live in southern New Jersey. I planted them September 10th. This is Glenn on YouTube. So congratulations, Glenn. Yeah, your first winter pansies. All right, Mr. Booker, how does he need to take care of those winter pansies?
I like winter pansies. I like pansies, and they normally take care of themselves.
Right.
You know, I know when I put them out in my yard, they just snow get them, ice get them, they still survive.
Right.
And they really want you to make sure you got no standing water in your pansies. You know, that's all you want to make sure you got no standing water. And they should do well. They should take care of themselves and everything. Every now and then you might want to give them just a little fertilizer around there, but that's it for the pansies. They do good. Pansies and viola, they're really tough.
They do good. You're exactly right. Mary, anything you want to add to that?
No, I think good luck.
Yeah, good luck. Yeah, but yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah, just make sure it's not too moist because
moist, yeah.
the roots will rot.
We'll ride on you.
Okay.
Everything,
Yeah, don't bury the crown or anything like that. You can use a slow release
So
fertilizer,
like icicle or something like
Right.
that, yeah, whatever. You
Mulch it.
Yep.
and it should be good.
It'll be good, yeah.
So good luck to you, Glenn. We appreciate that question. What product can safely kill grass in my liriape? I have no other weeds there, thankfully. It has proliferated this spring, and my age prevents me from hand digging. This is Larry in Fredericksburg, Virginia. All right, Booker, so what do you think about killing grass in liriape?
That's what probably got monkey grass and got in there again and everything is in there. So you want to just make sure whatever you use on there, you make sure just start out real small to make sure it don't kill everything that you have on there. I know you get some things last time that might would get rid of some herbicide that we can use on there to get rid of that out of there.
Right, so again, if you're trying to kill any type of grass in liriape, liriape is in the lily family, it's a turf lily. So you would use something like Ortamic,
yeah.
right? Fusilade 2 or Grass Be Gone, because it contains an active ingredient that is a selective selective herbicide that releases, of course, the liriape, but only targets the grass,
Yeah.
right? So that's what I would do. Peter?
Yeah, I was going to say, it won't get any broadleaf weeds either. So you may need to, in liriape, that's kind of a hand-pulling job when you have the broadleaf weeds. But the grass, luckily, monkey grass or liriape, whatever, is not grass. So you could spray over the top of it.
Yeah. So again, just use a selective herbicide. It controls grass. Read and follow the label.
Read the label, follow
right?
the label, that's
Use the
right.
wipe technique on that, so you don't have to spray everything. And I think you'll be fine, Larry. what herbicide can I use to kill poison ivy under my white pine trees without harming the tree? This is Delbert from Hyco, West Virginia. So you know a little something about West Virginia.
Good poison ivy in West Virginia. I completely agree.
Good poison ivy there. All right, so how can we help Delbert out here, huh?
Yeah, so there are multiple herbicide options for poison ivy. And poison ivy can be a challenging one to kill, let's be honest, right? It could be, small, but we could literally have like large vines,
I've seen those.
on trees. So there, glyphosate is an option. Sometimes may take multiple applications.
It will.
Yeah. There are other herbicide options that may not be. So I think that where he's going with the question is the trunk and tree safety.
The trunk
right?
and tree, right? It's what he's thinking about here. So this is what I would do. Okay, so the glyphosate will work. Triclopyr is something else that you can work for brush, right? I would carefully, of course I'm going to have on gloves, long sleeve shirt, pants, and all those good things. I would paint.
Paint and not spray it.
And not spray.
Yeah.
Right. Paint or wipe.
Yeah.
And not spray. Something else you could do too now, if you want to grab it with some gloves or whatever, kind of pull it away from the tree a little bit, cut it, right? And then I would paint or wipe, right?
Yeah.
That green tissue. Turgor pressure, of course, would pull it down into the root system. I'd knock it out that way.
Yeah, and we're really getting two benefits. One is that we don't have the risk of overspray that could impact the tree, age and all of those, elements will come into play. But we're probably going to more effectively kill the poison ivy as well with that method.
And that's what we're looking to do. How do I get rid of and control hollyhocks? They are taking over my flowers. And this is Terry. So, Joellen, what do you think about that? The old hollyhocks, right?
Hollyhocks.
Wow.
What a beautiful problem to have. Because I like hollyhocks
I do too.
myself.
Yeah.
But obviously he's in an area where his garden is so nice and rich that all the seeds are germinating, and that's going to be the key. All the seeds are germinating. So a pre-emergent is going to help with controlling that. And then whatever comes up, he can just pull. But yeah, pre-emergents are about the best thing that I can think of to prevent more of them germinating.
Wow. Beautiful problem, Dr. Kelly. What do you think about that?
I love hollyhocks. And if he has holly, if he wants to keep some, and they just got kind of out of control, because they do reseed prolifically.
Yes.
So he could just, cut those flowering stalks back before the seeds start flying every which way and dropping down. So, yeah, but long term, the ones that's already there in the soil, pre-merge.
Pre-merge.
Yeah. But I'm like her. I mean, I love hollyhocks.
I mean, I have some at home.
I do too.
They reproduce like crazy. There's no doubt about that.
Might just let it be a whole hollyhock bed.
Could be.
Yeah.
It wants to be, obviously. Right?
Yeah.
He's got the right environment for it. So.
So there you have it, Mr. Terry. Thank you for the question. A pre-emerge. Read and follow the label on that. Okay. This plant came up in our yard 3 years ago, and so far no one can identify it. It has small yellow blooms on the stems, and the leaves are sticky on the edges, and it grows 3 feet tall. What is it? This is JV from Morristown, Tennessee. All right, Mr. JV, here we go. Catchweed bet straw is what that is. I've seen it 1,000 times, right? It is a herbaceous annual weed. Prefers shady, moist conditions, but can grow in the full sun if there's moisture. Has the whorl of leaves, as you can see from the picture, right? But it has hook-like hair on the stems and on the leaves, which allows it to adhere to clothing and animal fur. Right? Almost like Velcro.
Velcro.
Right? Almost like Velcro.
Velcro, okay.
Right? It has a shallow root system, so if you pull it up, you better get all of it. Not, it's going to come back. It can produce 300 to 400 weeds, seeds.
That's a lot of weed.
So that's a lot of seeds, right?
Yeah,
that's one plant. So you definitely want to, make sure you get all of it out, because it's kind of brittle, so it breaks up. And then it can grow to be 6 feet tall, but it needs the support of other plants to climb it, right?
Okay.
Right, so it has to climb those other plants for support. If not, it just kind of grows like a mat, okay? So culturally, you know what you have to do, of course, right? Grass type for the area, water properly, fertilize according to your soil test. But yeah, catchweed bed straw. Okay. Is what that is. Right? And it does produce a yellow and white inconspicuous flower. Right? So it's a wildflower.
Wildflower, okay.
Yeah. So who am I to say it's a weed, right? It's a wildflower.
Wildflower.
So JB, catchweed bed straw. I don't have grass in my backyard. I have weeds, mold tunnels, bare areas, and trees that are bare at the trunk. There are also areas where it is wet or soggy after rain. I have tall trees that give a lot of shade. The perimeter of the yard has lots of overgrown bushes that block the sun. I would like to have grass in my backyard. Can I have grass in a shaded yard? There is morning sun at this time of the year, October, but by noontime it is mostly shade. And this is Linda from Germantown, Tennessee. All right, Ms. Linda, we just happen to have our grass guru here with us today. So, Mr. Booker, what do you think about that question?
He can't have grass in the backyard.
Oh, you can, okay.
But one of the things though, if he got poor drainage, like they say, he got standing water when it rains, he need to try to fix that problem right there.
Okay.
Because you don't want the water to stand.
Okay. And how would you go about fixing, the standing water? Any suggestions for
probably
Ms.
put some
Linda?
kind of organic, build with some organic material in there, maybe add a little sand through that and spread it out and see what causing the problem. Maybe compact soil.
Maybe.
He might need to aerate it some and try to get it loose enough for the water can drain off there.
Sure.
It could be a lot of compact soil in there, but he can grow grass there, and fescue lawn. He need a cool season grass.
Okay, cool
Some companies you say got a lot of shade in there, so you need a cool season grass in there. But fescue would be the best out to do that in there. But get rid of that standing water. If you got standing water in there, your grass don't have a problem. You don't have like the root system out of there. It don't die. And that with mold problem, we all have we all have mold problems. I have mold problem. And the best thing with a mold, try to get you a mold trap and try to catch that mold out of there. But you can grow grass, but you got to control that drainage problem first.
All right, so Ms. Linda, it looks like you can grow grass in your shaded area, maybe a fescue of some type. All right. Yeah. So give our office a call. Yeah, Mr. Booker T. Lee would be happy to help you out. All right.
Yeah.
We have an infection of squash bug, Corius marginatus, or dock bug, on our cucumber vines. I looked it up to see what it is. How can we get rid of squash bugs on our cucumbers? They are killing the vines. I have squashed them when I have gone out there. We have sprayed them with Captain Jack, but doesn't seem to deter them. This is Regina from Clark Range, Tennessee. So the old squash bug, right? And I like the scientific name, Corius marginatus. How about that? So, Elena, what do you think about those squash bugs?
Try to get them early.
Try to get them early. You better.
Scout them early, picking them off, finding their eggs up under the leaves, trying to get the eggs off. Your next round of defense is when they're hatching and they're young in the nymph stage. You can get them with neem oil, insecticidal soap, horticultural oil.
Yep. That's going to be the best way to do that.
And then maybe plant again for a fall crop.
Maybe look for a fall crop.
They all starve to death.
Yeah.
Start
Start a new fall crop.
Something else too, practice good sanitation because they're going to overwinter and crop debris and things like that. But yeah, you got to get out there early. You got to scout. Flip the leaves over. They're little bronze-shaped footballs, right? If you get duct tape, all right, you can double-sided duct tape, put it around your hands.
Hit them, okay.
Take them off the leaf like that, right? We've actually done that.
That's great.
We have a video for you for that.
Okay.
Yeah, so do it that way. But scouting early is going to be the key. And then, of course, using the neem oil, horticultural oil, insecticidal soap. But you have to target the nymph stage. Why it's important to know life cycle. So anything you want to add to that?
No, that's great then. Everything just look early, find them, and try to get rid of them.
You got to get rid of them.
Yeah,
because
gotta get rid
squash
of 'em.
bugs are tough.
They tough on the plants, yeah.
They are tough. You know what Mr. D would always say?
What?
2 bricks, move your thumbs.
Hate them together.
Yeah, that's what he would say.
Okay.
I don't want to use imidacloprid because I am afraid it will harm the pollinators. What else can I use for pests on my flowering plants? And this is Lisa from Indianapolis, Indiana. So Celeste, don't you like this? She
I do like
actually
this.
does not want to use the soil drenches, right?
Yes.
Imidacloprid being one of those. She wants to help save those pollinators. So can we help her out with that?
We sure can. So we've got lots of options out there in the world of pest control. So trying to find an option that has a shorter residual is always going to be considered friendlier, quote unquote, to our beneficial insects, not only pollinators, but other predatory insects, right? So some of those options would be insecticidal soaps, horticultural oils, things of that nature. We can even look for products that have very targeted species control, like BTs. Bacillus thuringiensis targets specific species of insects, so you know that you aren't, spreading that wide blanket. You're being very targeted in your approach. So those are all options. But I will say that none of, those insecticidal soaps and oils could also be detrimental to beneficial insects when they come into contact with them. So the key to helping promote those types of insects is going to be timing of application and making sure that we're using them appropriately. So if we use them and don't get excellent coverage the first time we use them, number one, you're not going to get good control of your pest insect, and then number two, now you have potentially harmed beneficial insects for no reason because you didn't even accomplish your main goal. So when we're using them, make sure that we use them appropriately, and then a trick to avoiding pollinators especially would be just to don't apply them when the plants are in flower, because those pollinators are coming to the plant for nectar and pollen. And if they're not in flower, then those things are not available, being offered by the plant at that time. So for example, if you're doing something in your lawn and you've got some flowering weeds, mow your lawn before you need to spray an insecticide. Or target those flowering plants either before they go into bloom or after. So those would be just kind of some of my basic suggestions on how we can promote those insects.
Celeste, that is good. So Peter, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, if you do end up having to spray while they're in flower and you want to protect the pollinators early in the morning or late at night, or I don't want to say late at night, in the late evening.
When they're less active.
Yeah, and the pollinators are probably not there. And then if you use something with a short residual, a contact insecticide, then that won't have any effect on the pollinators when they visit later in the day or the next day.
Yeah.
So we're glad, Lisa, that you want to take care of those pollinators.
Definitely.
This is good. So I always tell people least toxic pesticides.
Yes.
Or what you should use. Read and follow the label on that. You don't want to spray any of these when temperatures are above 85, 90 degrees because you will get burning. So you definitely don't want to do that. But the oils, the soaps, yeah, they work.
And we want to be good stewards of what we've been granted. So,
which is, again, read and follow the label on that, and you should be fine. And we should also mention that, many of these insecticides that we're talking about, soft-bodied insect pests. Yeah, your aphids, your thrips, your mealybugs, and things like mites. So it will control those as well.
And I will caution, just because something says that it's organic does not mean that it's not toxic.
That's right.
So, we have lots of chemicals that are in the pyrethrin family that are derived from natural sources. And so they have organic labels, but they can be very toxic.
Oh, yes, they can. Again, read and follow the label. So
identify your insects and learn when the best time is to kill them.
Right, and I always like to say life cycle.
Yes.
If you can learn the life cycle, it helps, because there's a vulnerable period during that life cycle when you should be using these insecticides.
And you can use the really low impact insecticides as opposed to having to, go to the imidacloprids or something like that.
That's right. Life cycles folks. All right. Thank you, Lisa. We appreciate that. What flowers can I grow indoors that will not aggravate my sinus problem? This is Lasherio from Covington, Tennessee. So, Jill, interesting question. One you probably, have gotten a few times. So,
yes.
What are good plants?
Well, and that's a tough question because there are so many indoor allergens that can aggravate sinuses. It just depends what specifically a person is allergic to. If someone's allergic to pollen, then unfortunately any flower is likely to trigger that.
Sure.
I'm not aware of any indoor flowering plant that would not aggravate a pollen allergy. But that's not necessarily what she's allergic to. We don't know. Maybe she may be able to get an allergy test to help determine that. But perhaps a leafy plant that doesn't flower, something like the snake plants, the Sansevieras, that are mainly just green leafy leaves.
Okay.
And those are flat also, because also dust can trigger allergy problems and sinus issues. So if you have a leafy plant, those leaf surfaces can collect dust. But if it's something with large leaves, that's pretty easy to dust off and keep the dust removed. So I might suggest something like the Sansevieria or the whale fin Sansevieria that just has that one large leaf that's going to be relatively easy to smooth off. Also avoid indoor plants that have fur, that are furry, that have hairs on the leaves, because those hairs can hold on to dust that will end up aggravating those allergies.
Okay. Sansevieria. I thought about, what about golden pothos?
Sure.
That'd be?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, pothos is easy, and that would be easy enough to wipe off. Also, molds can trigger a lot of allergies.
Think about that. Yeah.
So if you've got a house plant that's staying wet, that the pot is staying damp, molds can grow on that and trigger some allergies. So she might go for more of the dry plants, more of the succulents, again, like a snake plant.
Sure.
Something that can dry out and would not be increasing mold growth inside the home.
Remember, we love to hear from you. Send us an email or letter. The email address is familyplot@wkno.org, and the mailing address is Family Plot, 7151 Cherry Farms Road, Cordova, Tennessee 38016. Or you can go online to familyplotgarden.com. That's all we have time for today. Thanks for sending in the questions. To get more information on anything we talked about today, or to see answers to even more questions, go to familyplotgarden.com. And while you're there, ask us your gardening questions. Thanks for watching. I'm Chris Cooper. Be sure to join us next week for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. Be safe.